Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
And tonight we will be reviewing that sort of...
you're not going to say well-known, are you?
horror sci-fi. I'm not sure.
It's more of a horror film.
Okay, it's a horror film called Frogs.
Ribbit, 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 ribbit.
Yeah.
That's my impersonation of a frog.
Yeah, I gotta admit that this one's an interesting one. It has Sam Elliott in it.
Sam Elliott,
who's been an awesome actor for many years.
He's been in a lot of things. He's been in a lot of movies and some TV programs. He's done voiceovers. Sam Elliott. We'll talk about him a bit later on, but he's one of the main stars, and Ray Milland is the other main star who plays a crappy, grunty, old business tycoon, rich guy, and he gets his just desserts somewhere later in the movie. What do you think?
Quite right.
I like desserts.
So do I. Especially when it's done to someone who is nasty or...
Yeah. You remember that accountant or solicitor guy in Jurassic Park got eaten by a T-Rex?
Yeah.
That's a yay job. This is a bit like a yay job.
I wonder,
too.
when they did Frogs, and it was released in probably theatres, I think, whether or not people cheered when the bad guys got their just desserts.
Yeah, well, when the animals do the bits, yeah.
Because there's going to be a lot of people whom you may find this hard to believe, but there are a lot. Apart from Sam Elliott, who's a nice guy, the rest of the other characters seem to be posh and
rich,
snobby,
self-absorbed, that
selfish.
Sort of thing. Yeah, selfish, except for one of them. Well, no, that's unfair because one of the direct family people, played by I think Joan Van Ark, she's a nice girl, and she
kind of likes
she rebels a bit against the grandfather.
Yeah, grandfather.
And there's a lady who's the girlfriend of one of the family guys. She's a nice lady. She's an actress, model type thing, and she doesn't like this bowing and scraping to the Lord and Master of the Manor sort of thing.
Even though her husband tells her one day this guy will pass away and we'll get a fortune.
Well, we'll get our share of his fortune and stuff. Just bear with me.
Yeah, it's just like one of those.
Wasn't it the other guy who said that?
It's the guy you're thinking of.
No, what? Oh yeah, well, yeah.
Anyway, as I was saying, it's like puts me in mind of a whodunit where a lot of people are in one spot, or in a mansion, and they're all here for particular different reasons, mostly because of their grandfather's money.
And actually, I'm glad you said in a mansion, because this is I wouldn't say a basic movie. It's not multiple scenes. Oh, let's go here, let's go there. It's all centered around this plantation building, apparently on an island. Near a swamp and waterways and whatever, and that's where most of the filming's been taken. Which, when you do a nice contained film, sometimes it works quite nicely. You don't need to go, let's go over here, let's go over there, let's go. Yeah, it costs a lot more money doing that way, and a lot more time.
Apart from some scenes, I imagine they probably had to film on an actual spot, with the mansion, but they probably did have to find other areas to film in to make I've
got a funny feeling the way it's been written up on the internet and whatever. The information I can find, all the filming was done in situ at the property.
I see.
So I don't believe there's any studio work involved.
No, I'm just referring to maybe they may have found other grass or jungle areas or swamp areas to make it look more authentic, just in case they couldn't.
I believe, from what I just said to you, I think all the filming was done there.
Okay. It's just that, what they always say, you never get satisfied with the location you shoot at. Sometimes you may have to select another spot to make sure you get the spots you need to complete the the
I know
product.
what you're saying, but I just said, I believe, from what I can read up on it, it was all done in one location.
Okay, so let's move on.
Along.
So who stars and directs and
produced
produces
by,
this?
produced by George Edwards and Peter Thomas. Directed by George McCowan. Now, the story was written by Robert Hutchison, and he actually wrote the screenplay along with a Robert Blees. Now, when it gets onto the budget and box office, I got no bloody idea because there's no details on how much it cost and how much it made. Now, I'm not saying it's a cheap and nasty. It's just I can't find out what it cost. I don't know what it made at box office. And I can't find too much on the way of reviews either.
Yeah.
So maybe it was relegated to the drive-ins or not,
Or small theatres.
Small theatres. I've got no idea.
Because some of these movies, whether they're like maybe a few out there, the ones that start, they're independent ones at the beginning. They go on to become well known, but they corner the small local theatres.
See, I first saw this movie, I think, at the drive-in years ago when
and
I was a young
drive-ins.
man, and I think it was on the Midnight Flicks. We have the main features being taken care of, an hour later, all the boys and girls go in there for a late night double feature or something or other. On Friday the 13th or something or other. Or we went. I think I did one of those. That's where I saw Frogs the first time.
When they did Chainsaw Massacre, the first one, that was sort of independent one,
and that would have been
it would have been a small theatre, just and a lot of other stuff,
art house sort of stuff, maybe. Yeah.
Small stuff.
Anyway, moving right along. Okay, actors. It's interesting. We got a guy, the main guy, Ray Milland. Now, I'm not going to say he was at the end of his career at this point in time, but Ray Milland started acting in 1928.
Ooh.
This is 1972.
Wow.
So, playing a grumpy old rich tycoon sort of business guy, he handled it well. He's definitely the right age bracket.
Did you know he wore a toupee in some of the scenes?
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me.
Oh, actually, all the scenes, because he kind of sweated, and sometimes it fell off during some scenes accidentally.
Makeup.
And then they would have to call cut and had to replace it back onto his head.
It might be warm where we're doing it, but
it was.
Anyway, irrespective. Moving right along. So he ended his acting career in 1985 and he passed away the following year.
Damn.
No, well, the point is that, I think he would have kept going if he didn't die. So he's one of those guys who just kept going on and going and going and going. So I take my hat off to Ray Milland. He was in a lot of movies and TV programs. He was sometimes a main actor, but more a very good support co-star type guy.
Okay,
he was in Premature Burial. Ooh. I think it was a Roger Corman one. I can't remember. He was in The Man with the X-Ray Eyes.
I heard that one.
He didn't mind doing the odd weird stuff, but he's in ordinary dramas as well. Dramas. I think the man, some sort of guy with two heads or something or other.
I actually saw that one. I heard that was an interesting one.
Which one?
The thing with two heads, whatever they call it.
Oh, the head with two things.
Yeah, the head.
as Elvira said it. Oops, so sorry. The head,
anyway, moving on. So who else stars in this?
Now, moving right along here. Sam Elliott, he plays... Ray Milland plays Jason Crockett. He's the head of the family, man.
Yes.
Now Sam Elliott plays a wildlife photographer who's snooping around the island. Now, Sam has also been in many films and TV appearances, but because of his personality and the way he talks and whatever, he ended up going into a lot more Western sort of roles, even though he didn't do all Western movies and stuff, but he ended up doing a lot of Westerns, and I think the last thing we saw him in would have been, what's the motorbike one? Ghost Rider. He played the old cowboy guy in there, the Ghost Rider.
I thought that was probably the first time I ever seen him in.
Yeah.
Before I started watching Frogs and The Legacy and any of his previous movies he may have done in the past.
As a young man, he was tall,
handsome,
good looking. good physique. Yeah, he could have done a lot of other different things, but I suppose his personality and everything made him more suited for the laid-back roles.
Yeah, I guess it's a little hard to, stuff, especially with an accent like his. I mean,
he had nice. I wouldn't say southern, but more of a bit of a country drawl and stuff.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Some people
and a deep voice.
Yeah,
and
some
things
movies they don't really wish to use an accent, but it's not bad to use one every now and then in a movie.
Well, it depends where you're coming from. Yeah.
And considering that he's in those previous roles, he's playing a natural nice guy, and he's not comes off as a cowboy in that one. Some people are often...
Actually, he had a role in The Simpsons at one stage, and he played a cowboy in that as well.
That's what I mean. In some movies, whenever you do have an accent, they make you look cool. They capitalize the fact you're a cowboy, so they just dress you up like one, instead of just let you wear ordinary clothes.
It's really funny you said that. It's the way someone talks. Okay, there's guys like crikey. Anthony Quinn.
Yeah.
He's played Mexicans. He's played Italians. He's played everything. We need an accent, bung him in. That sort of thing. He was in Guns N' Navarone playing a Greek. That sort of stuff. So, he'll pass. And,
anyway, moving on. So, who else stars in this?
I'll gloss over some of the other ones, but we'll stop and talk about a couple of them. Joan Van Ark, she plays Karen.
She's pretty.
She's a nice younger relative of Jason. It's a daughter, not granddaughter.
Yeah, granddaughter.
I thought the little kids was grandkids.
Yeah, great grandkids, I think.
Right, okay. So she's
I think that the older people who, the lady who chases butterflies and the other guy, they're like his kids, and
that's right.
And those kids, younger people, are their kids.
They did actually designate the roles in the movie.
And I guess the little kids would be great grandkids, if that's how it works. But they still call him grandpa, yada yada. It's part of the whole thing.
Karen, she plays Jason's whatever. Younger relative. And she's a nice lady. And Sam Elliott's character, he's she likes him. Got the hearts for him.
Well, he's good-natured and nice, and he in turn likes her because she's the only decent person that doesn't give him a hard time.
Adam Rourke plays her brother, who's an arrogant, self-centered creep who hasn't got out of his high school and football days.
Yeah,
and he's got a wonderful wife, played by Lynn Borden. And that's Jenny, and she's a bigger pain in the bum than he is. Now, there's two people here, Tina and Jay Crockett. They could be the kids, I think. I think they are. And that's Dale Willingham and Hal Hodges. If that's the kids, they play pretty good kid roles. I mean, it's really hard to work with kids. Now, Judy Pace. She plays Bella Garrington, an attractive model, the girlfriend of one of the other people. Now, she had been acting in films and doing things from 1963 to 2017, so she's been around.
Quite a while.
Been doing her things. Now, she plays that role, and Mae Mercer, she plays Maybelle, a female servant. Now, I know it sounds like a bit of typecasting, guys. Get over it.
Guys, get over it.
But Mae was an American blues singer and actress. She did blues singing in Paris, France, and whatever. Came back to America to pursue an acting career. She wasn't in heaps and heaps of movies, but she did quite a few. She did a handful. A couple, Dirty Harry, The Beguiled, Frogs, obviously, Cindy, and Pretty Baby. And she also was a co-producer of a documentary film, Angela Davis, Portrait of a Revolutionary.
Cool.
So there you go. I won't mention the other people. They're just cannon fodder for the crocodiles and the spiders and stuff.
And the frogs.
Actually, I'll talk about the frogs. I'll talk about the frogs now. One of the reviewers said, I don't know why it was called frogs.
Should be called toads.
No, because most of the killings during the movies were done by lizards, snakes, crocodiles,
birds,
whatever. and the frogs are just hanging around. But I got the funny feeling that the frogs were the ones orchestrating it, coordinating the other animals and reptiles and stuff to do their bits. I think the frogs were the evil guys behind it. Don't trust a frog, okay?
Yeah. But then again, they play the when they way to the end, they play a very interesting role, which kind of seals their fate with the evil tycoon.
But all through the movie, the frog's just hanging around and jumping around and just getting close to the house.
And we get close-up shots where they ribbit.
Yeah.
Which they look like they're communicating to one
That's
another.
what I think. I think they're communicating to the other animals.
Yeah.
Saying, we need to do this. Person's coming into your area. Come on. Black snake over there, so-and-so over there, cottonmouth snake, we need you there.
Yeah.
And
as I said before, they're not frogs per se. They're
like toads.
They're toads.
I don't know what a frog looks like in America. In Australia, it look more like a toad.
Frogs are, I say, very small, but these ones, toads are a lot more bigger.
And they weren't green, but there might be different versions of frogs.
Again, they come from the same family. They're both amphibians, so... I won't pick at the director.
And you got tree frogs.
And I won't pick these poor animals to death.
No, well, they're amphibians and reptiles. Anyway, do you want to tell the story now?
Yes, so it starts
Once upon a time.
So it starts with Pickett Smith, who's just taking photos of the swamp areas, taking photos of the animals and of sewage being left behind by
industry. Actually, that was one part that bugs me. They're supposed to be on an island.
Yes.
Where's all the industrial sewage coming from?
Maybe he didn't row over to the island because he.
Well, they had to get a boat to the mainland later on to get off the island.
Yeah, so.
Well, I need to go around their island and all the sewage coming in off their thingy.
Well, maybe while he was rowing towards the island, he was rowing past the swamp area, which had all these bits and pieces in there, including a very big pipe. I'm going to mention that's dumping legal sewage into the canals and to lake.
You wouldn't have a factory in a swamp, and the only thing there was the island. So
who says it was a factory? It could have been.
Well, someone was flushing the toilet an awful lot, were they?
No, I'm just saying that maybe there was an illegal truck park there that was legally dumping.
Yeah, they wouldn't be dumping out of a pipe. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Anyway,
it's a little bit confusing there.
Anyway, I'm no expert. So, anyway, he's on a canoe, just so you know, and he paddles the canoe out into the middle of the lake, where a very big boat, what's it called?
Oh, it's a power boat.
A power boat.
Yeah, power boat. Yeah.
And
racing boat.
And Karen and her brother are
testing the motor and then yahooing all over the place without any care about anybody else.
Her brother is no doubt drinking.
He's got a tinny in one hand and the steering wheel of the boat in the other. You know the type.
He knocks Mr. Pickett Smith off his boat.
He swamps his boat.
And not to mention, his diving equipment and his camera are now lost under the bottom of the water.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Sad.
Yeah. Anyway, they eventually promised to take him back to the mansion so he can tidy up and have a bit of lunch.
Yeah, and they're going to write a check for any lost goods or whatever.
Yeah.
As rich folk do sometimes.
Yeah. Of course, as we said, Karen develops a soft spot for our antagonist. Protagonist.
Did you say he was doing out there taking photographs?
Yeah, he says he's a nature photographer, and he's there to do a special study on waste being thrown into the
ecological problems, pollution and stuff.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, around. And so he was doing a lot of stuff out there. That's why he's out there paddling around.
So he meets Mr. Crockett, the rest of the family, and Mr. Crockett is a really nasty piece in this movie.
Nasty, arrogant, overbearing, self-centered, me,
tycoon.
Typhoon, yeah. You do as I tell you to because I'm always right. Sort of attitude. You know the type. I've worked for those sort of guys.
Me too, and I feel not really happy about it. Anyway, moving on.
Right along.
So, they try to discuss what to do about the frogs. Seeing the frogs make lots of noise, and they're quite near the mansion, or not very near. They're just and all that. Would you shut up?
I'm just giving some sound effects.
Anyway, they discussed poisoning them in the water, but Mr. Smith says, if you do that, you'll be poisoning other things in the water too.
You're killing off the fish and other things.
You could kill the fish, kill the water snakes, kill anything.
Birds,
He then was advised by the tycoon to go check out a guy who was poisoning the area of the
mosquitoes and stuff up the other end. Or, I think it was mosquitoes.
And some of the frogs and the snakes and whatever he comes across.
Yeah.
So Pickett goes walking, traipsing up there, and he sees the abandoned jeep, I think it was.
Yeah, jeep, yeah.
And he finds the man who's along with a lot of snakes and frogs jumping on him, and he
wasn't very well, was he? No.
As he turns him over, we see that he's completely dead.
Yeah, his face was, one body looked like he'd been chewed up by the snakes a bit, and he gets swelling and horrible, and he'd been laying there for a couple of hours.
To avoid a disaster and a bit of crisis, Mr. Crockett tells Pickett not to say this to anybody of the family.
Because they're there for the 4th of July weekend, which also is to celebrate his birthday, and I think 3 of the other family members. He didn't want anything to spoil their function. Yeah.
So, anyway, Mr. Pickett stays the night, and there was a moment between him and Karen that night where she finds it fascinating that he's a photographer, and she just likes him.
They had a slight moment outside under the moonlight.
Of course, they hear a lot of those frog noises, mating calls, whatever you will. But anyway, moving on. The next morning, we are in full swing of the 4th of July and all that stuff.
Yep.
And soon enough, they begin to get themselves organised for 4th of July, organising the games, croquet,
fireworks.
And King of the Log, whatever.
I think it's some stupid game. I wouldn't play the games either.
Yeah, I wouldn't even play it with Karen's brother, for that matter. He seems like a total cheat.
He was a bit like his grandfather or father or whatever. Yeah. Arrogant. I want to win all the time. So I'm the best. Yeah, no. Well, he wasn't.
So all the family members, some of them die in very mysterious ways or unknown to the other people in the house. Meaning, one old lady who goes off to find a butterfly, I think it was, for a collection.
That's a bit later. Yeah.
And she gets attacked by a snake. Although most people thought she may have gotten in previous poster, she looked like she was going to sink into the swamp, but that didn't happen.
No, you never go by the posters, folks.
Yeah, just like one of the posters you see probably in the trailer, you'll see a giant frog with a hand protruding from its mouth.
Like it ate somebody, and there's no big frogs in it. No. There's a sense of reality here. They're all normal-sized frogs.
I like to think there was a bit of a lack of communication between the market designer who was designing the poster, and he thought maybe it's just a giant frog attacking people. So
it's a big one. It's not that big though.
Yeah. So there was probably a lack of communication, which I often think it's always important to have communication when you're working on films like this.
Let's try to get this in order. That lady happened later on.
Okay. So anyway,
the phones were out.
Yeah, the phones were out.
So they sent one of these younger guys out there, one of the family members out to check the phone lines up.
He ends up shooting a few birds
and then he shoots his leg.
Yeah, accidentally. And he ends up collapsing to the ground, and these tarantula type
I think it's tarantulas,
spiders start dropping on him and start biting him.
And they're dropping moss on him. And, like that I think it's old man's whiskers or whatever they call it. It grows off the trees.
I believe you. Yeah. Anyway, by the time he's dead, they cover him with lots of web.
You see, you wouldn't see him walking down a pathway.
And a little bit of old man's whiskers too.
I think it's old man's whiskers. I think it's called. Yeah.
Anyway, Pickett is down there, but he doesn't see the dead man, and he discovers some other stuff along the way, realizing that they're in deep trouble.
Yeah.
Another man who's gathering orchids from the greenhouse.
Yeah, one of the other sons or grandsons. Yeah.
He ends up getting attacked by
these cute little gecko guys.
These cute little lizards, including some very big black lizards.
For you people who might be into reptilian culture, I think they're tokay geckos.
Yeah, very big creatures. They're practically as big as a cat. Or maybe.
Well, no, the smaller ones. Yeah, the smaller ones. There were some bigger ones came in
so
there. So
they knock over a few toxins inside the greenhouse and lock the door.
Yeah,
or not lock the door.
Yeah, they lock the door somehow, right? I really don't know how the lizard will lock the door, but But they might borrow a big lizard to do that. Yeah, because they're those big ones.
Yeah, those biggish ones.
Those big, whatever
anyway,
they're called. Yeah.
he collapses, and meanwhile, the old lady I mentioned earlier that was chasing butterflies, her husband is going chasing her to find her so she can come to the party
because he's late for dinner.
And
lunch,
he
whatever.
gets attacked by a crocodile or an alligator. I'm not sure.
Now, Tarzan would have been proud.
Yeah, well,
wrestle. However, we noticed something on the crocodile's mouth, didn't we?
Yeah, a black strip of leather.
Something keeping the crocodile's mouth closed. So they used a real alligator, not a rubber one.
Yeah, I guess they
strapped its mouth closed so it wouldn't bite the man.
I guess they probably thought that maybe if we colour it black, no one would notice.
Well, we did. You think it would have coloured crocodile colour? Yeah, it would have been a lot easier.
Or at least get a stuntman to, because there are people out there who do wrestle alligators for fun.
If you do that, if you get a piece of leather or something and colour it the same colour as a crocodile, you wouldn't have noticed that. But it was like black against white. You could see this band around the crocodile's mouth. Hello, guys.
Eventually, the man the alligator gets the upper hand and kills the man.
Yeah, and takes him off for the kitties to gobble up. Lovely. Mr. Hunter.
Yeah, soon they get wind of the man inside the greenhouse dead, so they realise they're up the creek, so they head inside for safety. Oh, just so you guys know, before I forget, before this happened, nights before at dinner time, there was a snake in the dining room that tried to
hanging
attack
from
them.
the chandelier.
But luckily enough, Mr. Crockett was able to shoot it.
A pistol out there, and he shot it straight for the head. And he told the servant to pick it up and take it out, and let's eat.
I think this would have been a red herring that maybe the animals are trying to sending an assassin when you think about it.
He could have been a spy.
Yeah, maybe.
Did a bit of reconnaissance work, Yeah, he got. I wonder if he got a Purple Heart for that.
I don't know, maybe.
Poor snake. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Now the remaining people, they're realizing that they must get off this island quickly. But Mr. Crockett still won't budge.
I'm going to stay here. No stupid creature's going to drive me out of my house. Yada, yada, yada. Yeah. And anyone who leaves her a traitor. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. That sort of attitude.
Yeah,
folks.
so...
no longer Yosemite Sam.
But, what's her name? Bella?
Bella,
Belle
and model lady,
and Annabelle, I think, or Mary.
No, there's Maybelle. It's funny. Bella was actually called Maybelle, but she short to Bella, and she had the same name as the servant or the cook lady, both called Maybelle. So Bella, who was the model, said to the servants, Maybelle and I can't remember the other guy's name.
I can't remember these either. Sorry.
You have a choice here yourself. He can't tell you what to do. If you want to leave and take care of your own safety, leave. And the three of them just went.
Yeah. So
and they packed the bags and went.
Yeah. So Karen's brother, I don't remember his name. He takes them in his speedboat and take them to the mainland.
It's Clint. Clint. Yeah.
So when they get there, the place is deserted, but it seems to hint that these people, who were there,
have recently disappeared because there's something cooking on the barbecue just near there.
The food looks like it's been ready for some time.
No, it hasn't been charcoal, so it hasn't been sitting there for too long. It's actually on the fire, but hasn't been overcooked. So in the past couple of minutes, something's happened.
Yeah. So a few people, they then see birds flying overhead, and they do something that's similar to Alfred Hitchcock, I think.
The Boyds.
Where they start chasing them, and we don't see what happens to them.
Yeah, they're running behind a building like they're heading towards the road, but we never see them again. But later on we see the luggage strewn all over the ground and open
but
stuff.
We don't see blood or anything like that.
No, we just see the open luggage. They dropped the luggage and ran. So they could have hailed a car. Yeah. They could have been chewed up by animals and dragged off in the woods. We got no idea.
I guess I like to think they. Well, I'll explain. Say that for later. So anyway, Clint is as he's checking out the place to make sure see if anyone's survivors are around.
Yeah, well, there's a little grocery store at the jetty.
Yeah, there's a grocery store where you can buy worms and whatever.
Well, odds and sods, a little store, yeah, and because there must have been other people who use that jetty to go to their homes on islands and stuff. And
there was also a fish. A fishing pole.
Yeah, sitting there, dangling in the water, waiting for a fish to nibble on it.
Yeah, it looks like it's...
Like the guy just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, gone for a whiz maybe and didn't come back. Yeah, but...
Yeah.
Don't know. Very suspicious. But anyway, Clint's looking around and he comes back.
He then notices the rope that he tied his boat to has been snagged or broken.
Yeah, one of the big lizard chewed through it, I believe.
Something.
No, we believe that big lizard was laying there. That big, dark, speckly lizard.
Yeah.
I think he chewed through it.
So the boat is now moored in the middle of the lake.
Here it is, hang on. The culprit is an Argentine black and white tegu.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
That's a big lizardy guy.
Anyway, his boat is in the middle of the lake, so he tries another boat that's near the jetty, but as it turns out, there's no key.
So he decides to swim.
Yeah, so he swims, but there are some water snakes in the water.
Yes, and I know what they are. They're called a cottonmouth snake. Cottonmouth. Yeah, so I don't know if I gather they can swim, and they chased him out to the boat, and he didn't quite make it, did he?
Yeah, he tried to pull himself up, but of course one of the snakes
got him
bit
again.
him,
yeah.
and he drowned or died.
Well, died and drowned.
And while this is happening, his wife's watching through binoculars and sees him, and she comes down to the water's edge, and she gets attacked by a turtle.
Now, and I got this one for you reptilian people out there, and it's called an alligator snapping turtle, and it's a very large type turtle, which I gather being called an alligator one must have a huge mouth compared to the ordinary turtle.
So do they have teeth or something?
What's the alligator suggest to you?
Okay, sorry.
Chomp, chomp, chomp.
That explains a lot. I mean, I would
so
not...
she got gobbled up a little bit. And we saw a bit later on crabs all over. A really bad dose of crabs.
Yeah, I made that joke just last night when we were watching it.
Bit of penicillin or something go a long way.
Anyway, so they're up the creek, so to speak.
Well, sort of. Up the creek, in the swamp, whatever, same thing.
Meanwhile, while this is happening, a lot of those little mini those frogs are starting to get closer and closer to the mansion.
Yeah, they're encroaching on the territory.
Of course, Mr. Smith, he tries to go darts into the shed to get some poison, but it seems...
get petrol. You got to use petrol to...
Yeah, to get them away. But fortunately, they ran away. Like, they knew right away.
A tactical retreat, in the army.
Yeah, so anyway, Mr. Crockett still refuses to move or even evacuate the mansion. He says that he's staying, yada, 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 and the remaining of his family is staying. The only remaining family is Karen and her sister's children.
And his dog, Colonel.
Yeah.
Poor Colonel.
Of course, Pickett thinks this is not good, so he gets a shotgun and then he loads both the kids and Karen into his canoe to get away.
And they paddle out into the water to get to the mainland.
But fortunately, they run a snag. And so they had to try to push it.
And this is one of his beefcake shots where he had to take his shirt off.
Yeah.
He looks pretty good.
Yeah, so he loads himself into the water and pushes the boat. And then one of the snakes from the tree starts attacking. And so he uses one of the oars to whack it.
Hey, I don't know if that really actually works. Snakes are a bit more resilient to that.
Yeah.
But if you don't break the neck just behind the head, you're still dead.
Yeah. So he was.
Anyway, we won't go there.
They row on, and eventually they reach the jetty that I mentioned, and of course some of the creatures are still there, as I mentioned.
Yeah, they're hanging around. Hello, how you doing? I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah, and they then notice the eventually. Bella's renting her suitcase, which with her very vibrant outfit
she
wore.
she was a very flashy dresser.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's a
very
sort of a
clothes.
clothing designer / model.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. And actually, she suited the role quite nicely. Yeah.
Yeah, she's very pretty, and I like the dress she had on in the evening. It was very low cut.
Yes,
How very low?
but
Very low.
Elvira, eat your heart out.
Type low. That type low. Anyway, eventually they head to the main road, the main road there.
Or the road going through there. Yeah,
and Mr. Smith waves down a passing
with
car.
a lady with a little boy in it.
Yeah, whom, as it turns out, she was just picking up from summer camp or
He had
something.
been at summer camp, and she said, I've been on this road for so many hours, I haven't seen a single soul.
Which indicates maybe this animal thing is spreading.
Yes, there might be, but she hasn't seen any problems, and the little boy didn't see any trouble at summer camp either.
Yeah, which could have meant something.
Yeah.
Anyway, he then pulls out, when they're driving down the road, he pulls out a very big frog.
He's look what I found, isn't it big?
Yeah. And
Ribbit.
I don't know what happens to Pickett or the kids or Karen after this, because that's what
they'd
last
just
time we
driven
see
off
them.
to go to Jefferson City, I think. So,
Yeah. So that's the last.
And the camera pan goes back to the mansion.
So that's the last time we
yeah.
see those remaining survivors. So I don't know what's going to happen to them.
I
like to think-
room for a sequel.
I like to
Frogs 2.
I like to think Mr. Smith may have reported the incident so he can get the warning out to everyone. Maybe.
I think the problem is that it's already happening in more places than there, so there may not be anyone to warn.
Maybe.
Maybe everyone knows about it.
Anyway, back
moving right
to
along.
the mansion. It's nighttime, and now the frogs have entered the mansion.
Mr. Crockett's there. He's sitting there,
With his dog.
and you hear the glass breaks in the door, in the window or door, and the frogs start to come in.
Ribbit.
And if in a very short period of time, there's frogs all over the room, sitting on bookshelves and everywhere,
and
record player.
And we get a lot of shots throughout the scene of the frogs ribbiting, and eventually he collapses and develops a heart attack.
he had a heart attack. Yes.
And then the frogs jump over his body, and then I don't know how to explain this, but there was a scene before that scene. He gets a phone call. I don't know how
the phone
to explain
rang,
that.
but the phone was dead. So the frogs or somebody had actually stimulated the wires somehow or other, and made the phone ring. We do not know how or why. There's no rhyme nor reason. However,
Eventually, as I said before, once Crockett is passed out and dead,
the
lights
went out in the
went
mansion,
out.
which could only mean he didn't pay the light bill, or the generator went out.
Yeah, and
whatever.
And throughout the credits, we hear just frog noises.
Ribbit. Yeah, there's no music, there's no nothing, just ribbit. Like if you went to a swamp or somewhere.
Yeah, and then as the credits end, we see an animation of a frog jumping onto the screen, and we see it having a hand protruding from its mouth.
And it goes gobble gobble.
And he gobbles it up, and then he jumps off the screen.
So cute.
Which probably explains where they probably got the idea for the poster, maybe.
But the point is,
guessing.
I don't think there's any problem with frogs and being portrayed as in the advertising as the killers, because the main threat was the frogs. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds around this house. And I reckon they were the ones organising the rebellion of the other creatures.
I have no doubt, Mike.
Yeah, somehow or other. So I've got no problem with that.
Yeah, so
frogs are underrated. I think they're very, very smart.
So anyway, this was the first of many eco horror films of the 70s, inspired by the surprise box office success of Willard that was done in released in 1971.
Willard had rats.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's really cool, and I think what's it called? Food from the Gods.
Food of the Gods.
That was a H.G. Wells.
Yeah, I think H.G. Wells, and they had Empire of the Ants. That's another one.
Or was that Jules Verne?
No, I think it was.
I wasn't sure. I'm not sure.
I
may have to do a bit of reading again.
Whatever. But it had Empire of the Ants. That was another one where Coldy was doing things.
I think it was H.G. Wells. I think.
Okay.
Who wrote The Time Machine?
H.G. Wells.
Yeah, that's him. I'm sorry. I'm getting my facts mixed up. So.
Anyone that leeches, one movie that leeches.
But it's amazing that so many writers have gone ahead and used old stories like Jules Verne and all that stuff.
I've said to you many times, a good movie can sometimes develop out of a good story, whether it's a short story or a long story. And they, Roger Corman used to take some of those Edgar Allan Poe stories, say, I can make a good movie screenplay out of this, and take it and make it into a screenplay. Like the one of the Black Cat one. Well, that had two stories. One something or other. The case, the Amontillado, and the Black Cat. And not to mention
Lovecraft.
H.G. Lovecraft movies,
He's been, stories, I liked his stories. I liked Reanimator
Lovecraft did
and stuff
that
like
one. Lovecraft one was used a couple of years ago. The Whisperer in the Dark or something.
Yeah, he did.
And that was the Lovecraft one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I gotta admit, I do like it that when they bring an old book like that, even if it was not really appreciated back then, but became something successful later on.
But like I said, if he gets a really good story and stimulates a good visionary, I'll use that word very nicely, visionary, who wants to make a movie, and he says, I like that story, and he has a good screenwriter, they can make it come to life. Instead of let's make up a movie storyline, let's write a synopsis. It's already been done.
But you've got to admit, Mike, it's mostly the books that I know back then. Whenever I think of Jules Verne, I always think of the Time Machine and all that. But it's interesting back then. They never put
Jules Verne and H.G. Wells.
They never thought about ever you thinking about making those other movies like that one about the food of the gods back in the early 1950s days. I mean, it's interesting that up until years later in the 1970s, they started using that idea.
They're looking for crap because, I mean, it's okay, ecology going bad, radiation's been done with the giant ants and the giant, all the other giant creatures, what else? Hey, ecology.
Of course,
this pollution.
One, of course, in frogs, unlike unlike the other movies like ants and other stuff that deal with giant creatures, this is more dealing with ordinary sized creatures that that you never think are harmless.
They've already done the giant creatures with the great apes. That's what you said. They just said, let's go on to ecology side of it, and the creatures rebelling against what humankind is doing to the planet.
True.
Or their environment. So
I gotta admit, it's an interesting twist that takes place on an island, and you think that you never know what goes on outside the island. It's just like when you look at
phone was dead since the beginning of the movie, so they couldn't find out what was going on.
Yeah, it's like the birds. Like in Alfred Hitchcock's movie, while the birds were attacking this small town, we don't know whether the outside the town if they're being affected too.
No, we get the impression that was localized. I do anyway. Yeah, it happened and it went away.
I gotta admit, I am still impressed that Alfred Hitchcock was able to make the birds, even though I don't like the fact what went down in this relationship with Tippi
Hedren. Okay, fine. We're not doing Hitchcock. We are doing this one. Okay?
I know, but it's interesting that movies like this that deal with creatures that start attacking people at random and for more like they just want to.
They're rebelling for some reason. Anyway, production, I can't say too much about production. However, the film was shot in Walton County, Florida, hence the swampy areas and stuff.
It must make sense.
On the Emerald Coast in and around Wesley House, an old southern mansion located in Eden Garden State Park in the town of Point Washington, situated on Tucker Bayou off Chocowatchee Bay. I hope that's the right pronunciation. So like I said, I believe what I found out and what I read, everything was done at that mansion and surrounding grounds.
Got it.
That's what I think. that's all I've been able to find out about it. Oh. They didn't say plus a so-and-so studio and so such brother somewhere else. It just, that's where it was. So, yeah, localised movie, less cost. Now, Sam Elliott had 2 beefcake scenes in the movie, and these scenes reportedly helped him earn the title role in the 1976 movie Lifeguard.
Wow.
So, obviously, he was a lifeguard in the movie. He looks good with no clothes on. Let's put him in some swimmers. Yeah.
Well, he doesn't have a buff body. I mean...
No, he looks good. He's not an Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he doesn't look like me either.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a nice figure for a young guy, and and he's fit and he's tall.
Considering back then, guys, most guys didn't shave their... Except for a few movies out there, they would ask for a shaved, body. But in his case, he didn't shave his chest or anything like that.
He looked pretty good, actually. I wish I looked like that when I was
younger. I guess in the 70s, they wanted to make their men look like men, have a hairy, a little bit of a hairy chest.
Not females,
Not make them look like completely bald. Or, I mean, not bald, that's the word.
That Ray Milan had the wig on. He's bald.
But you know what I mean? They, at the time, back in some movies, some mainstream movies, they would often have their men shave so they can that it will appeal to...
They didn't want a hairy man.
A woman audience.
Or a man audience. Hello. Reception. Here we go. Not much on the critique part, I'm afraid. However, Frogs received a score of 29% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, boy.
Well, obviously... it's a retro grading. They didn't review it back then. They reviewed it now, in the past, say, 10, 15 years or something or other, maybe. So things have moved on. So, you wouldn't expect to get a great grading on an old movie like that. Now, I'm reading directly from my notes here, folks. So, now, a reviewer from Horror News Net found it odd for a horror film to be titled Frogs when all the killings in the film are done by animals other than frogs, and discuss the acting. Sam Elliott is good as always, and we think he's good too. He manages to feel like the outsider while also feeling like part of the group. It makes his role work in ways that it might not work in someone else's control. Ray Milland is also fairly good as the patriarch of the Crockett family. He personifies the bull-headed, you listen to me because I'm always right attitude in such a believable manner that you think he is that guy. Mm-hmm. The rest of the cast isn't as great as these two, but their lack of good performances only helps to make their deaths more fun to watch.
Yeah, an interesting thing that there was some interesting dialogue between Ray and Sam in this movie.
I think they work quite well together. Yeah.
Because there's some interesting dialogue where, in some scenes where it's between the two of them, that they discuss life and survival and stuff like that.
And different things, and the dead guy out in the woods, and whatever.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. Like, while Ray's character, he doesn't respect life. It's considering the fact he had a trophy room full of animals.
Stuffed animals.
And didn't have he doesn't value other people who...
He doesn't value anybody except him, and he values himself above everybody else and his money.
While Sam's character is more... he wants to do what's best for everyone.
Yeah, he's a nice guy, a good all-rounder.
Yeah, a good egg.
Yes. Now, availability. If you want to look at this gem, okay, right. eBay, there appears to be plenty for sale. And on Amazon, it's definitely rentable through Prime, and there are some for sale. So I would say, other sites, streaming sites might have it as well. So, it's worth a look. It's a good, fun movie. Do not expect an A-grade movie. I don't think it's quite an A-grade.
But
it's a good, fun movie for its period.
But the I do like the fact that there have some interesting music, if you can call it music. I'm not sure if it's music.
Yeah, the soundtrack, it wasn't too bad. Yeah, it worked. Yeah.
Yeah, it worked really well.
Yeah. So yeah, look, it's worth a watch if you can get it. If you rent a copy, stream it maybe from somewhere. Yeah, if you really want it, it's not expensive to buy a DVD. Come on, folks. Yeah. Yeah, and there's new and used ones around probably. I even saw an old laser disc of the Frogs, for crying out loud. Yeah. So those of you guys got an old laser disc player, you might well get one of those too.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's a good, fun movie, and typical of movies of that kind from that period. I think, but it was done well. It wasn't done. Some come over a bit cheap and nasty. I don't think it came over as cheap and nasty.
I also think the scene where some of our survivors got probably attacked by birds. I like to think they may have survived and probably got picked up by a car.
I would like to think so, but there was no blood. There's no nothing. They don't know what happened to them.
Yeah, they probably used either one or both the other people's bags as a shield against the creatures.
Don't know.
I don't know.
Can't
say what may have happened.
It was left up to the viewer to figure out. What happened there?
Those people seem to have vanished, just like the people on the jetty vanished.
Well, yeah, they would have been in a shop there or something. Yeah. Anyway, I can't think of anything else we can talk about here.
Yeah. So, do you want to rate it now?
Yes, we do. Let's roll into the grading. Gee, crikey. See, I don't like to measure movies up across the board. I like to do it in their genre and their time period. And so, for its period back in the 70s, I've seen some downright dogs made back in that period, and I wouldn't bother watching them. This is a watchable movie. It may not be an A-grade movie. It's got some good actors in it. Two main leads. You have to say Ray Milan. He was a veteran. He knew how to act. And Sam
was a great lead.
Sam Elliott was a great lead, and he had some good acting up his sleeve prior to this movie. So they really held the show together. The film was good. The locations were good. The script wasn't too bad, actually, considering it's one of those sort of movies. So I'm going to give it a 9.5.
I'm going to give it a 9.5 too. Mostly because I do like the how Elliott portrays his role in this movie.
Yeah, he's believable.
I mean, I like the fact that way to the opening bit, we open on him and we think it's all centered around him, and he's the stranger to the rest of the rest of the cast.
Yeah.
And it's just like when you look at, I know that you don't like me talking about it, but it makes me think of the birds, because we open on Tippy's character, and we all think that this whole thing is centered around her with the birds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But this is like with Elliott's character, where this all happens because he appears, and we think this is all coming from his perspective.
But it wasn't. He was just an innocent bystander.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's my theory. I like to think that when a stranger comes to an area, you think there's something about him,
something wicked this way come,
or he may not be involved in any way. He may turn out to be an innocent who just becomes
happens to be there and becomes a hero,
who becomes the perspective of the audience. Like everyone's seeing what's going on through his eyes and through the frog's eyes.
Yeah, see, the frogs didn't get. See, that's another point too. The frogs didn't get any credits.
Oh.
And they had speaking parts.
Ribbit.
And
I imagine the handler who was looking after the frogs and breeding them for this production probably got credit, obviously.
He's probably got a restaurant that serves frog legs. Big ones.
Anyway, so feel free to watch this movie.
No, it's good. Look, it's a good fun watch,
guys.
As
I said in the past, guys, do not go by our perspective. You just feel free to lay down what you guys think about the frogs.
If you don't mind watching old horror, sci-fis and stuff from the 70s, and I'd say a better one, and I'd say audio quality is brilliant on this. Some of those movies in that period are echoey. They weren't recorded properly. This was done as professional as you can get. As good as an A movie, though it doesn't quite measure up to an A movie.
Yeah.
It's good quality B movie.
Yes.
So yeah, it's worth a watch. It's a good fun thing. Basic script, basic dialogue, basic plot. It works really good.
Yes. So that's about it for us tonight. So I hope you guys enjoyed our podcast.
I did.
And I hope we see you guys for the next one. So this is Sarah Stephenson.
What's my name? Oh, and Michael. Yeah.
Saying ribbit.
Ribbit.
See you guys next time.